I've not done this before, so recording has started. Let everyone know that they're being recorded. So you're on notice. The first portion of the meeting will be presentation. We'll have Q&A at the end. Still admitting people as they're coming in here. Quite a few people joining the group. Today, we also have our intern, Drew, who will be keeping notes for our meeting. So if there's anything that wants to be specifically be called out for him to take notes on, please have Charlie or Jared from Jackson County or myself, and just mention Drew's name, and Drew will make sure to capture that in his notes. All of our information will be on the MCGISA.org hub site with the link, and all of our PowerPoint information, the software itself, meeting minutes, everything will be there for a county that might be a neighboring county to you that didn't have an opportunity to join us today. They can go there and get all of the information from that as well. So, and then at the end, once everybody's gone through this, we're looking at this being a peer-to-peer type solution for us to all help our neighbors, and everybody can be part of the team going forward. So, a little bit of history on what we're about to cover for those of you that haven't had a chance to be in our conversations up till now is back in the 1990s, Federal Highway came out with a sign inventory solution that some people were involved with. Other sign solutions came and went, one of which was simple signs that a lot of people ended up at. That kind of coming and going, if you will. And so that sparked the need for some of us counties to say, hey, is there a good solution out there? And we got a lot of brilliant people in the GIS community, and I'm proud to know some of those brilliant people. And it's really nice to work together that we can all develop our own thing. So that's where we're at today, is the sign inventory solution. We're calling it SIS. We're branding it as SIS. It's McLeod County. We're using it ourselves here. It's working great. Our sign person has it, loves it. I'm really excited about it. I'm not just, it's really impressive. So, I don't think I've missed anything as part of my introduction. Charlie with Washington County and Jared Balone with Jackson County have been the two geniuses behind this effort, and tip of the hat to both of these. And I guess, Charlie, if I've covered everything, if you want to take it from here, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. I'm Charlie Parent with Washington County. I'm a GIS tech through Public Works. My focus is on, setting up inventory solutions like this, and the web apps that are associated with it. So I think I'll get right into sharing my screen in the presentation. We'll get her kicked off. Okay, so here we go. As Christy said, we're calling this MCGISA SIS Sign Inventory Solution. As we go through this presentation, I'll probably reference SIS a lot here, just because it's a little bit easier to say. Christy, if anything comes up, I can't see anything since the PowerPoint's up. If anything comes up and you got to stop me, just chime in and let me know. We're going to try to hold off questions until the end. We'll get through the first part of the presentation, and then this last section we'll open it up, and maybe we'll get some good discussion here and questions at that point in time. So here's the agenda. We're going to go through MCGISA Sign Inventory Solution, SIS. We're going to talk about kind of the development of this data set and how it came to be. And then we're gonna have Jared from Jackson County share his experience, working in simple signs and moving his data set over into a SIS solution and through our GIS Online. So after Jared's section here, we're actually going to go and do a live demo. And hopefully everything goes well on these live demos. I have some screenshots in case it doesn't, but I think we should be all right today. Cross your fingers. We'll talk about importing the SIS solution into ArcGIS Online, and then configuring a web map and the applications that go with it to get the solution off the ground. Following that, we'll get into the data collection. We'll have a little section on field data collection and what that looks like using iPads and mobile devices, and then we'll open it up to discussion in the end. Okay, so for those that haven't been to this site yet, this is the MCGISA Sign Inventory Solution landing page. Here's the URL. If you go to that URL, there's actually a tab at the top designated for this project. This is what the landing page will look like. It has information on, a little bit of background on the MUTCD manual, which it's based off of, and then also there's a link here that will take you to an FTP site where you can download the solution and actually start using it right away. One benefit of using this solution is, if you already have an Esri GIS license through your county, you have the software already in place to stand something like this up. And then, a couple other things you may need is, a cell phone or a tablet type of mobile device for field data collection. And then something we'll talk about later in the presentation is, maybe looking at getting an external GPS receiver to improve accuracy for that mobile device. All right. So let's talk a little bit about background on, the SIS data schema. So it was developed based around the Minnesota Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Did I say that right? Minnesota Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, MUTCD. And one thing in developing this, it was really important to capture all the different, series of signs within that MUTCD. So, R is regulatory sign, W I think is warning sign, this is marker signs, and so on and so forth. One thing we really tried to capture in this is, a lot of our county business in the sign department is based around this manual. So that's kind of the focal point of this data set. So the SIS data set actually was developed by Washington County Public Works Sign Shop Group and myself. We spent a good amount of time going back and forth on, okay, what type of data set would actually be beneficial and would work for the sign shop. It's something that, I spent a lot of time setting up on the GIS end, but once everything was set up, the idea was that this data set would be managed and run by, the sign shop managers and our sign shop staff. So, our goal was to have a really simple, straightforward mapping solution that could be used by the whole group back in our sign shop. All right, so I think I'm going to get out of the presentation and go into GIS Online just to talk in more detail about what's in this database schema. Okay. So this is what the data set after the import process. This is what it looks like in GIS Online. We're going to navigate to looking at what the database actually looks like for field attribute information. So over here, this is just information on the field type, and then these are the actual field attributes that are associated with each, with the data set itself. So I think I'll go through these and just kind of give you a description on what they are and how they're set up. So first field is straightforward, county road or CISA number. So we can query those specific roads out if we need to. The next bunch of fields are the MUTCD MnDOT codes, and there's a code for each, or there's a field for each series of sign. They all have their own field attribute, as I said earlier, one of the benefits of using the SIS solution is if you don't already have this set up, this work is done for you, and it's put in place. And these were created with, basically by going through the MUTCD manual and grabbing every sign code out of that manual and importing it in as a field domain. So all the codes are actually in the data set itself as a drop down when you're importing data. These codes get updated, kind of on like a yearly or every other year basis based on, if the MUTCD manual changes, if the sign codes change. So you can see R series regulatory signs, that's your stop signs, yield signs, all that kind of thing. There's a lot of codes that are imported into this thing. So that's one of the benefits of, if you're not already at this point with an inventory, this work is done for you, and you can just hit the ground running. So, some of these series don't have as many codes, but, like regulatory and I think the warning signs, there were quite a few as well. Yeah, there's a bunch here. So that's kind of how MUTCD series signs are set up. There's a custom sign field at the end here. And that is set up in case our team had any unique signs that aren't within the MUTCD manual. They could just write a description of what the sign is here, or if we're behind on adding or changing the coding in it from the MUTCD manual, they could put the coding that's not there in the custom sign field, and then we could go and query out at the end of the year and figure out, we're behind on some of these codes. We need to go back in and update our field domains. The next field would be sign size. The width field is up here, and then there's also a height field. Washington County actually uses width more than the height field. So, the height is in the data set. However, it ended up being down at the bottom here. Our width field actually has a domain set where it's basically every 3 inches. That way, you have consistent data for data import for our field workers. Next field is post type. We have the most common post types we use: Telspar, galvanized U channel, black U channel, and round. The beauty with this is once you get it to this point and get it imported into GIS Online, these field domains, let's say there's a different post type that ends up coming out, you can actually edit that and add in another post type really easily to your drop down. And the same goes with, you know, the series signs. You could go in and go to the bottom and add a new one, and you can actually click and drag and resort. So that's something to note when you're into this, at this level. That's how you would go in and change your field domains. So we're at number of post type. The number of posts, just drop down for how many posts per sign. Multiple signs on post, just makes it easier if you're trying to query out, you know, if you want to query out signs out there that are bunched together on one post, that's a easy way to query it out. And then if yes, how many signs on that post. We also had this field, primary signs on post. So let's say you get to an intersection and you have a stop sign with maybe an always stop placard underneath it. You know, obviously the stop sign would be the primary sign. So you would mark the stop sign as the primary, and then that all-way placard underneath would be no, that's not the primary sign. The way Washington County has our database set up is every sign in the field is associated with a point. So you may look at an intersection and it looks like one point, but really there may be 4 points stacked up on top of each other. And that represents 4 actual signs at that one location. I think Jared might, when he gets into his part of the presentation, he does it a little bit differently, in that I think he has, you know, signs, you know, that he has number of posts, and then how many signs per post. So that's, you know, totally up to you on how you want to set that portion up. The way we have in Washington County, every sign out there represents a point in the inventory system. And then sticker date and installation date. You know, obviously sticker date is important if you want to query out, you know, let's say we want to do a replace on signs that are older than 15 years. You know, there's a date associated with each sign now, and we can track age and life of signs and actually swap them out and do queries on that when needed. Installation date, we have 2 dates because, you know, there could be an instance where, you know, a sign gets removed from the field, and then, you know, it's in good enough shape where we can actually bring it back and you know, install it at a later date. Again, so that, you know, the installation date would be newer than the sticker date in that instance. Direction the sign is facing, pretty straightforward. You know, if you wanted to query out all the southward facing signs because they tend to degrade quicker, that would be, you know, an easy query to do. A general notes field, status field. So, you know, that's how we kind of track on the map. This is what we base our symbology off of in the Washington County system. Good needs attention, needs immediate attention. So like on our map, it would be good is green, needs attention is orange, needs immediate attention is red. And that's a way that we could, you know, a worker could see something out in the field that needs immediate attention, mark it on the iPad, and then, you know, let the supervisor know, hey, I marked a couple red today. We need to take a look at that and actually and go back to that and fix those. The rest of the fields here are all, you know, the global ID and user tracking fields in GIS Online. And then one other field at the end here is something we added after the fact, which were signs that were on, you know, like a mast arm or on, you know, signs that were on like a signal pole or something like that. So, you know, we got all our signs done on normal posts, and then realized, we also needed to be able to call out the ones that were on, not just signposts, but the signal system poles as well. So that kind of goes through the data set in detail. I think we'll go back into PowerPoint. And that gets us into Jared from Jackson County. He's going to talk about simple signs and his experience.
Thank you, Charlie. This is Jared Balloon from Jackson County. I work in the Public Works office, but I basically take care of the entire county's GIS functions. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the steps, or kind of generalized steps to go through and convert simple signs into the new SIS solution that MCGISA has been pushing forward. I think it was like 2009, 2010, Jackson County decided to look into doing some sign inventory stuff. So before I got here, they were using simple signs, and what I found out is that basically simple signs is no longer supported currently. Basically, Rocamp and Associates sold their company to GIS Workshop, which is now called GWorks, and they don't have a simple signs product advertised anymore. They do have some inventory stuff, but it looks like it's a all-inclusive mapping, web mapping solution for the most part. So Jackson County, one of the big things after we were done with our inventory is you were using roll map. And there wasn't really a solution to move, or like basically to have a cursor follow you or show your location. So I know talking to, I think it was 3 or 4 sign mans ago, he would make mistakes when he was out in the field just because he needed to know exactly where he was and pan to that location in the map. And sometimes he ended up in the wrong area. So I approached Therese Rocamp at conference one time, and I just kind of asked her, is it possible to get an additional function in Roadmap to zoom to the current location that you're at? And well, I talked to her and tried to convince her, and was unsuccessful. So I looked for a different solution, and at that time, Collector did not exist. Collector or field maps did not exist. So I was using Trimble handheld and ArcPad, which, as we know, ArcPad isn't supported anymore as well. Next slide. Okay, so this map is kind of showing our 2 different inventory data sets. The green dots are what was collected by our interns in simple signs, and then the actual sign shields are our second collection, or our recollection. And you can really tell the difference in the locations. That some of those points are just way off from where they're supposed to be. So I analyzed this a little bit before we made our decision to recollect. And this is kind of vital, because the function of our data set, we even wanted to be able to like measure accurately how far that sign is away from the intersection, to make sure it's meeting current specs if need be. And so next slide. And then this just kind of shows an extreme example where you can see that the actual location of those signs, and then the green dot even showed up sometimes on the wrong side of the road, and also just sometimes way away from the actual location. The The main reason for that was our interns decided that they did not want to get out of the truck. So there was an offset feature to simple signs. And it was really dependent on what direction you were going, whether you would input a negative or a positive footage in there. Well, there were times where those interns were confused a little bit, or just the GPS didn't read which direction that they were traveling from correctly, and it would put the sign in the wrong location. So next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about the decision that we made at Jackson County based on multiple different things. One big factor, like you saw in the previous map, was the location was just off substantially. And then also it was found that some of the date stickers were not attributed or were just missed. So that was our policy that we were using at the time, that we were going to be in compliance with the Federal Highway Administration's retroreflectivity policy. We were going to use basically a full replacement based on date was our big item there. And then also at that time, engineer grade material still existed on some of our signs. So we were also trying to pinpoint those signs that were engineer grade as well, so we could replace them with a better retroreflectivity material. As Charlie said before, there's a slight difference between my implementation and his, in that I basically, my points are based on the post locations, and those post locations can have, multiple signs on them. As you can see, the one to the right, the far top right, that sign, there's 4 signs there. So that would have one post location, and then it would be attributed in the table in the background, the other MUTCD codes within that sign post. So in my data set, I had 5 MUTCD fields, which I got lucky. I kind of guessed how many signs, the most amount of signs that we would have on a post, and I guess 5. And luckily I was correct that we didn't end up encountering any signs that, or any posts that had 6 signs on them. So in Jackson County, we have 4,862 post locations. So in essence, points, with 6,429 actual signs in the county. Our recollection process was utilizing summer workers again. I instructed them and went out for maybe a half day or so with them to make sure that they were comfortable with collecting by themselves before I let them go and do it on their own. It took about 2 partial summers. I say partial summers because they were working on other things as well. So it was kind of a filler activity if we didn't have any surveying or so forth to keep them busy, then they would just go out and collect signs. So it took me about two summers. Another nice feature that wasn't available in row map or simple signs was with field maps and collector, we're able to take pictures at every sign. And that's really vital, because you can see with the multi-sign picture there that then you could see any cross bracing or additional posts that you may need to bring out with you to the field to replace that sign. And another interesting fact, you can see that that 4 sign one, I don't know if the resolution is real great, but the birds seem to use that sign for a target quite often. And I actually originally picked the sign on the other side of the intersection, and that one was even worse, that it was a target for them. Some of the equipment that we used, it was fairly simplistic. We just needed two two items, a tablet and then we utilized a Trimble R1. So I think at that time, we're talking, 10 years ago, I don't know what prices are at now, but my budget as far as equipment was right around $2,000 for equipment. And I was able to obtain using MnDOT's VRS system accuracies with that Trimble R1 between 1 and 2 feet, right around there. Next slide. So now we'll get into the kind of the steps for importing simple signs into the MCGISA SIS solution. To the right here, you can see a picture, and this is essentially the database structure that came out of Simple Signs. The original structure was a personal geodatabase. So as I'll talk a little later, there is a need for additional software, possibly some old software to convert that personal geodatabase. I just wanted to highlight some of the important tables in here. As you can see, there's 2 red boxes in that picture on the right side, and there should be a signs.shape shape file in your files on the computer, and then there's a table here called table TBL signs, and that's where all the information is stored as far as your MUTCD, your orientation, your position, your posts, all the pertinent information that you would need to know for that sign is the entries are in the table signs. The other important table is TBL activities, and this is essentially your work order or inspection entries from Simple Signs. So in order to get that personal geodatabase usable in ArcGIS Pro, because personal geodatabases are not supported in Pro, you're either going to need Microsoft Access or ArcGIS Desktop, the old version, to basically convert that personal geodatabase to a file geodatabase. If you do have old ArcGIS Desktop, I guess I would suggest that you just run the tool for converting the personal geodatabase to file to make it that's probably the easiest way to go about it. But if you don't have an old version installed on your computer and you're strictly in Pro, then you can also use Microsoft Access to export all these tables and then use a spatial join to then join them in ArcGIS Pro. And there's some unique fields in there. Sign ID is a unique field that you can use to join the tables. But further down the line here, when you're converting it to the new solution, you're probably going to need to utilize global IDs to join those tables together. The entries in this picture also that have dictionary in them, those can be used as your domains, so you're not having to recreate those domains in the future. So you can use the table to domains feature or tool to bring those into your database or your table to domains. Then once you're got all that stuff joined together and you're ready to move it, it's really vital that you have everything ready to go before you bring it into the database, so you don't encounter bugs or problems. I know there's multiple ways to go about doing different functions, but this is just kind of my explanation. So like I would suggest to use the merge function or the merge tool and combine both your Simple Signs data with the MCGISA SIS solution so that you can transfer the data using a field calculator back and forth, and then eventually, you know, making the decision, looking thoroughly through the data and taking or adding any additional fields that you may need at that time. And then also you can assign the domains to those specific fields at that time as well. Then after you're at that point, you're ready to bring it into ArcGIS Online. Or the other option is also if you have a ArcGIS Enterprise or whatever it's called now, since Esri rebrands their stuff all the time. You can also deploy this in ArcGIS Enterprise, but your steps are going to be a little different than what Charlie's going to show in the future here. Next slide. So once you're to the point where you're bringing it into ArcGIS Online, we just kind of wanted to show what that looks like. And this is showing, you know, how the identified or pop-up looks in ArcGIS Online. So you can see that there's your fields that you transferred over are there. And next slide. This is meant to kind of show you where the that tables underscore activities that we joined up, kind of where those entries would reside. Now, you might want to check that before you even get it to this point that somebody has actually done any inspection records, because you wouldn't probably have to transfer that data over if they haven't been using it in Simple Signs currently. Next slide. This is showing those inspection records. You can see there's two entries in here, and they actually sort them by date, so you're able to see the most recent inspection / replacement or whatever occurred at that sign in this portion of the drop down. Next slide. And then this is within one of those entries. You can see kind of the fields that came over from Simple Signs there, the inspection records. Next slide. Last picture here is of a picture of the sign, and these, like I said before, are really vital in that you can see any materials that are used on that sign. All right, next slide, and I'll hand it over to Charlie. Charlie, you still there?
Oh, my mic was muted. There we go. How about now? Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Okay. I think my mic got muted there. There we go. All right. So I think at this point in the presentation, we will take a look at importing the MCGISA Sign Inventory Solution to Esri ArcGIS Online. So as we stated earlier, you will need a Esri ArcGIS Online account. And first step, you'll go to the website and the MCGISA website and download the new sign solution. And then this import process is pretty straightforward. So I think we'll just go through some screenshots and how to do it. It's kind of a 5-step process, and then we'll go into we'll follow that up with doing kind of a live demo on how to set up the web map. So first thing you'll do is you'll log into GIS Online, and you'll go over to the Content tab, and then you'll see all your main content page. And at the beginning or at the top of that page, you'll have New Item. You select New Item, and a New Item box will pop up here. And so what you're going to do is we're going to add a new item from your device, from your computer. And you'll click on this, and then you'll navigate to wherever you downloaded the MCGISA Sign Solution. And you're going to want to import this entire zip file into this. It's got to be within the zip file. So you'll navigate to this file. You'll hit next, and then a new item box will pop up. And by default, I think this file type will say file type shapefile. Because we're importing an actual file geodatabase with the database schema and the domains and everything, you're going to want to change this from shapefile to file geodatabase. And then it's going to ask you, how would you like to add this file? You're going to add the County Sign GIS template and create a hosted feature layer. And that's important, because that hosted feature layer will be your new data set on GIS Online. Okay, so once you hit next, a new item field will pop up, and this is probably where you're going to want to say, you're going to want to rename this to Jackson County Sign Inventory, or whatever you're going to name it. This is where you name it and you add tags, so it's searchable on GIS Online. So maybe signs, roadway, whatever you're going to add as tags and keyword searches. You can put that here, and then maybe add a summary on where did this date, when did you start doing this data set, and who's responsible for it within your organization, and that kind of thing. Okay, so you'll hit next, and then it'll create, it'll take a little bit of time, and then it'll actually move on to this page, which means that it's created a new hosted feature layer within GIS Online. And so this is what your feature layer site will look like, the landing page. This is actually where we went to look at, the field domains and the field attributes earlier. We went through that to look at the data from the data tab. You can also you can take a look at, some data usage information, settings within the feature layer. So you could set it for, do not delete layer, so it blocks it from ever being deleted. You can set the extent on the feature layer and that kind of thing in the settings. Then it also gives you all these options on the side. What do you want to do with this feature layer? So the thing we're going to work on today is we're going to open it up in the map viewer and stand up a web map that we could potentially use as our sign inventory out in the field. Some other options, you can open it in as a scene viewer. You can open it in ArcGIS Desktop, which would be ArcGIS Pro. You can publish it in a few different formats. You can create a view layer, which would be like, layer views are, let's say you want to make a view only layer that you could present to the public or to a different group in your organization, but you don't want them to have any kind of editing capabilities in any way. It'll make a view copy of the main feature data set. And then you can use that. You can export data, if you need to back this up every so often, you could export it as, there's a bunch of different file types, as a file geodatabase, as a shape file, as a new feature layer, and then it gives you options for updating data and the metadata behind it. So I think I'm going to get out of the presentation again, and we'll go into setting up a web layer. We will do kind of a little demo here. So here's that landing page we just took a look at. We want to set up a web map that we can use to access this data set. So we're going to open in Map Viewer. And by default, the extent has not been set on this, so it's putting us, in this no man's land down here by Africa. For now, I'm just gonna zoom into Washington County. And right off the bat, I'm gonna save this map. We'll call it just this test signs and test web map. All right. So now we have our web map saved. I like to do that right away, and if the extent's not saved, it'll whenever the web map opens now, it'll open to the county. You can go back in after the fact and set extents to only show the county and never zoom out beyond that. So within the web map, the more layers you add in, it'll show up in this layers list, and you could add in additional layers from our organization. If you want to edit symbology, you would click the layer, see how it's unchecked now, you would check it, and that allows you to go in and use this toolbar over on the right side. One other thing I want to do is I always like to use the base map aerials, and I like the imagery hybrid because it has actual labels populated with it. Imagery is just straight up imagery. Imagery hybrid has road labels and that kind of thing in there. So I really like using that. So we'll save that out. So now the new base map is imagery hybrid, and then once that's saved out, select the sign. This is our new sign layer. Let's say we don't like the name sign test. We'll call this boom, there we go. And then so the layer selected. So here are all our tools on the side. This is general layer properties. You can set transparency, visibility range. If you only want the signs to pop up within this extent, you would move the slider over to here, and then if they would show up, but anything beyond there, of course they would shut off. Here's basically the symbology. They call it styles. As I had said earlier, we use the status field as our drives our symbology. So it's good, needs attention, needs immediate attention, and different colors based on that. So I think I'll do that here. We'll go down to, here's all our data fields. Here's the status. Add it. And because those domains are already pre-populated, it's grabbing those domains within the field. So there's good, needs attention, needs immediate attention. And, usually good is green for us, so we're going to change the symbology quick. So you go over to next next step. You pick the status field. Step 2 is you pick a style, your style options. We'll just do this today because I kind of really like these. I really like these firefly symbols. They glow on the map. So just for today, we'll set all our stuff to firefly, and we want to make them pretty big so they stand out. And we'll do. There we go. We'll just say 30. Okay. And needs attention. Let's set that one to firefly. We'll make it orange. Go back. I'm going to set that one to 30 as well. Adjust size automatically. It just adjusts the size for us as we're zooming in and out of the map. If you don't select that, then it doesn't dynamically change the symbology, I think, and so it just really clutters up the map if you zoom onto a farther out scale. And then needs immediate attention. We want that sucker to glow bright red. There we go. And actually, I want that one to be. We want it to be a little bit bigger too. That way, it stands out from everything else. And then there's also others. So this data set supports no status information, right? And typically what we do is something that doesn't have a status at Washington County is usually a blue point. And one way we use that is like if we get a new batch of signs and we haven't actually physically sent our guys out to inventory and take new pictures, what we'll do is we'll turn all the signs blue. We'll take away the status field and say, go out there and inventory all the blue points and change them to, change the status so we know what the new ones look like. Or if there's a corridor that we need assessing on, we'll turn them all blue and then, reassess those points and turn them colors. So just a nice way of tracking what needs to be changed out there. All right, so I think we set up our symbology. We'll hit done. And now let's say well, we probably should save. So another common thing I use within web maps is configure pop-ups, right? So if you click on a point, how is that pop-up box going to show up? In Jared's part of the presentation, he had, he showed the pop-up, the field attributes next to the signs, and that's what you would configure here. So let's say we want County Road to be at the top. So you'll just click and drag. It's really easy to kind of maneuver around. And this one, we definitely want to put probably the direction the sign's facing. I'd want that one way at the bottom, and I'd want the series signs to be kind of all up together. So we'll just do that for now. So you configure your pop-up. Get rid of Bentley there. Okay, and then we'd save. And then just so we have an active point, as long as you've selected the appropriate layer, you can go in and add a point right here if you wanted to. So we want to add a new feature. Let's see if we can go out and find a sign somewhere here. So there's a sign right there, I think. There's the shadow. And there you go. So this is GISA 15. And it's probably a stop sign. I think that's R1-1. I'll just say it's, I don't know, 36-inch. Post type, view channel, number of post 1. Multiple signs of post, we'll say yes, because there probably is some kind of other placard underneath it. And then you have sticker dates. We'll just say today. And that is would be facing east. And then we'll say it's good. And we'll leave that blank. Another thing, once they're out in the field, if they take a picture and upload the picture, it would show up right here. So we want to create that. All right. So if we get out of editor mode and we click on the point, the pop-up shows up here. And that's however we configured the pop-up prior to that. I mean, obviously this stuff is, we would want to rearrange this. So, kind of like how the database shows the number of posted, number of signs on post, that would be farther down in the pop-up. We'd want probably county road and then all the series signs followed by the custom sign and so on and so forth. So that's kind of setting up your web map. Within this web map, you can also set up your forms, and that would be the form that you would populate within field maps. And after this part of the presentation, we'll have a quick couple slides on talking about what it looks like on field maps. But I do want all my fields. You can convert it based off of the pop-up and the map, or you can do custom forms. I'll do a custom form. I want to add in all the fields we have associated with this data set. As you click through, it'll give you information on that field. You can actually select what type of, if you want radio buttons or combo box, what type of form it looks like. Sometimes it gives you different options on whether it's a drop down or actual radio buttons. If you need to put a note on, a specific field, you can put it there. But let's just, for presentation's sake, we imported them in, and this is how we want our form to look on field maps on the iPad. We'll hit OK, and then we'll save out. So then, at this point in the game, you should be able to log in on your iPad, and the map will automatically show under your GIS account if you have your sharing set up for this map. So that's kind of a quick look at field maps. Of course, there's other tools within here you can explore, but those are kind of the basic ones that every day, I use every day to stand up different web maps. Let's go back out, take a look at. So there's the web map we just created, and there's actually the featured layer in my contents that we were using today. If you need to share it out, one way we control, we have different groups using different GIS, controlling different data sets out here. So our maintenance group would they manage the drainage, the culverts, and our sign shop manages the signs. So you can actually set up groups to share these too. So when the sign guys log in on their iPad and field maps, they only see the sign maps, and the maintenance guys would only see the culvert data, the stuff they're responsible for. So it's just a really nice way of organizing who manages what out here. One other thing we can do is we can create a web app. And that's, dashboards, story maps, experience builders, a new web app building application. We've done a little bit of work in here. In the past, we've used web app builder to build, I'll create one here. Pretty today, but it'll do the job. This would be if we wanted to stand up like a view-only viewer for, let's say we want to share with our engineering group, but we don't want them to be able to actually edit the data. So you can create a web app viewer for them. And there's different themes. There's even a dashboard theme in here. Web app builders, kind of the older way of building this. I think Esri's starting to push experience builder more, but just because we've been into this system so long, most of our stuff is actually built within web app builder. We'll probably end up moving and redoing some of these viewers later on, but this is kind of what it looks like. You can add widgets. So there's all these, editing widgets. There's, all this stuff that you can do. A measurement, we always add a measurement widget. There's probably a base map one in here in case they don't like the aerials. They could switch them out if they wanted. You could add data to it. And, I feel like a lot of the viewers you see online right now they look like web app builder viewers. They just have the same look and same feel. So I'm willing to bet a lot of them are probably web app builder apps. You can set it by, see if it goes off the screen, see how you can filter by map view. So if there was 10 points here, if you only have 5 on the screen, you'd only see 5 there. You can turn that off. One thing our sign shop managers use a lot is you can do queries. So let's say you want to see every R1-1, I think R1-1 stop sign. I hope it is. I keep referencing that. But you could query out every stop sign, and it would shut everything else down but the stop signs in the area. So it's just a really powerful way of pulling out data, or if you wanted to query out age, you could go sticker date is before, and then you could pick, go back a few years, everything before, May 16th, 2012, and it would shut everything down except for the ones that are May 12, 2012 and older. So it's just a really nice way to set up a view-only app and be able to share that with people outside of the group that's actually making the edits. These people can see the live GIS data coming in and be able to actually interact with it and get some use out of it too. So this is just for example, this is actually an edit viewer that we have set up. You can see this is we just acquired State Trunk Highway 96 in the last year. I think it was last year we acquired it. We got sign data from MnDOT. So we actually imported that sign data into this viewer. And what we did is we colored all those points blue because we want our group to go out and start inventorying some of them. So looks like they have actually inventoried a couple of them, but there's a lot to take a look at out there. This is, like I said, this is actually an active viewer that we're using. There's all the information. There's filters. You can set up a filter widget, and you could, so here's the sticker date. You can query specific ages. You could say, I only want to see, you know, the points that need attention. And there's the orange points. So we eventually probably want to do some work on those. We have last edit user, just in case we need to look up, you know, here's all our users. If, you know, actually something cool about GIS Online is, you know, we have user accounts. And so if somebody logs in with their user account and changes data, it's logging that their user account on that. They're stamping it onto that data on last edit user. So you could query out, you know, by specific users, county road, and last edit date. Those are our common ones we use. So yeah, that's this viewer. They could actually go in and edit data if they really wanted to. There's let's see. Here's the edit viewer, so they could actually add a point or edit the data within the point, you know, an existing point. So that was just, I figured it'd be kind of nice to show you what it, you know, this is the live one. This is, there's, you know, that's basically, you're looking at our county road system in point view. But yeah. So, let's see here. We covered setting up web maps, importing GIS Solution into our GIS Online, setting up web maps, and we also covered setting up, you know, a viewer to share with others using Web App Builder. I think we can get back into the PowerPoint. These were just screenshots in case the demo didn't work. So once you have your forms configured in the web map, you would download Esri Field Maps from your app store. iPad and Android both have it. The little icon in the app store usually looks like this, Esri Field Maps. Just took a couple screenshots. This is our Washington County, what our Washington County iPad looks like with field maps. You know, it's really similar to what you're seeing online in Jared's examples, but it's in a, you know, a mobile-friendly look. So you click on the point, and it's got all the attributes. It's got the picture if you want. Take a look at the actual picture at each location. And then, you know, you're able to actually hit edit and edit these fields as you need to. Down in the right corner, you would hit that plus, and you know, if you wanted to add a new sign, you'd hit that plus, and it would actually snap to your actual physical location if you're standing where the new sign is, and it'll drop that point there. So that's what the iPad looks like. This is an example of the clouds inventory. This is actually on an Android phone. So you have, you know, a bigger tablet, iPad looking device, and this is what it looks like on a phone. And you know, it's more compact looking. If you click on a point, you know, the form will actually just pop up over the entire screen, and you can make changes there. Yeah.
One thing to mention here too, with the Simple Signs data, as you saw before in some of my images, you don't necessarily have to do a full recollection starting from scratch. It is possible to use field maps and basically adjust those locations so you don't have to input all the attribute data over again. And basically that if you're in field maps, you're just clicking on the point, editing it, and with the little pencil that's on there, And then there should be a button. It's not showing in these images, but there's a button to update the location of that point. And then it should zoom to a better location than maybe you had in your simple signs data.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, that's and we do that all the time as well. If we realize our location data was bad right in this spot, we could get a GPS receiver. We'll talk about that in a little bit here, but you could improve your accuracy, and just like Jared had said, you can update your accuracy just by clicking an existing point and updating that point. And then here's just.
Say, Charlie, can we back up to that slide just for a second?
Yep.
I just want to throw also to compliment what Jared pointed out is, also in moving the points, this is a perfect example in this intersection is we had the inventory done where the 2 stop signs were inventoried on our County Road 10. The road to the north is a township road. The road to the south is a county road. So when they inventoried the county road to the south, the stop sign road is inventoried again. So we brought in the data from Simple Signs over. We had 3 stop signs at this intersection. So we moved 2 of them to the right locations and deleted out the extra one that was no need to have inventory twice. So this is a really good solution for us to help clean up our inventory in a spatial environment.
Nice.
That's it.
Cool. Just 2 last slide on field maps. This is an example of Jared had talked about this earlier, where there's maintenance records, attached to each actual point through related tables. And so you click on the point, you'd have this main page, and then there's also, you could actually pull up the maintenance inspection records on each point as well. That's really cool. Another thing I noticed with, Jared and Christy, something I really like with yours when I was putting this together is you have, our labels and ours are just like, basically object ID numbers, so we can tie it to spreadsheets. But you guys actually have, I really like this, you have the sign, the MUTCD code, and then the description of what that sign is. So, this whole presentation, I'm going, R1-1, I hope that's a stop sign. Well, it is, you guys have the description there. That's a really cool way of setting up the labels. So yeah, I just noticed that now, and that's really cool.
I appreciate that feedback. Just when we were working with our sign person here, who's sitting right alongside me to my left, he's fairly new to our sign world, and he worked with him to figure out what he needs. If he had been a veteran sign person, he might not have needed the stop or the R1, either one, but he wanted both, so we put them in there now, and we can grow with him as he grows.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And another point to make here too with the maintenance records, I kind of made it briefly before, but it is really vital to have that global ID connecting your table, your related table of maintenance records, and then the actual sign shape file or feature class here. Because I ran into an issue where I did not have, 10 years ago, or however long it's been, that I didn't have the global ID connection, and I can input an entry into it, but it won't stick for some reason. And I found out through doing this presentation from Joel gave me the advice that I need to use that global ID, otherwise the entry doesn't stick. So that's a really vital part of relating that table, is having that global ID.
Nice. The only other thing I can think of is this smart search. We have a screenshot of this just to show you the power of this thing, right? I mean, the GIS solution has all the MUTCD codes in there, and as you populate your database, you can type in and search stop, and because they have stop associated with each one of these codes, it pulled up anything that's got stop in the keyword, and it filters it down. So instead of like trying to figure out, okay, what is a stop, R1-1, you could search R1-1 or R1 and see what comes up, but you might end up having, if you type in R1, you might end up having like 30 R1 dash whatevers. Whereas if you search stop, here are the 3 most relevant stop type signs out there. So it just this, I think this is really powerful in showing that, you know, the search functionality in this is really cool. You know, it's not like you're gonna get lost in all these codes. Once things are actually in there, all you have to do is type in what you're looking for.
And I know that this was really helpful with, you know, using summer workers, because they're not going to know the code off the top of their head like most sign men do, the code for that sign. So they just had to basically have a general description or idea, and like shown here, type in stop instead of typing that R1-1 in. So that was a huge time saving, because previous they were going through into the summary book and, you know, scanning through pages to try and find the code, and that just became really time consuming until they, you know, got used to what the codes were.
Nice. Jared and Christy, do you have anything else on these slides before we move on? Field maps?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, so just kind of a summary slide. You know, we'll each, you know, let you know how our program's going. You know, so Washington County, it took us roughly 4 years to get this, you know, to start from 0 signs. We had an old inventory system, and it was so out of date and not in a real great spot, where we decided to just start over in GIS Online. So from ground zero, it took us about 4 years to get a complete inventory, and that's about 16,000 signs for our county roadway system. You know, in Washington County is kind of, it's part rural and part, you know, developed municipal cities. So we got a little bit of everything here, but you know, just our county size was about 16,000 signs. Once they were all collected, you know, that was a combination of, I guess that 4 years, that was a combination of the actual sign workers themselves, the full-time workers, and part-time staff. So we had, those 4 years, we had dedicated interns that were helping us with this. Now that we have a completed inventory, it's basically on our sign shop workers. As they're replacing signs, they have an iPad out the truck with them, and they're responsible for the updates. So I think, you know, one of the biggest things for us was we needed to make this inventory easy to use in a way that our crews, you know, could basically take ownership of this thing and keep the data relevant and keep it, you know, keep good, clean data within our inventory. And our group has done a really great job taking the reins on that and keeping this thing going. So Jared, why don't you talk a little bit about Jackson County, and then Christy, if you don't mind, after him.
Yeah, just kind of summarizing what we talked about before, that it took 2 partial summers with summer interns to collect these approximately 5,000 locations. And just kind of saying again that I did do my inventory a little bit different, and that's why I have 5,000 post locations and then 6,500 or so signs. So that's all I got.
Christy,
So,
how's yours
yeah,
going?
absolutely. Well, I'll say for us, when we moved our simple signs over, we had a lot of extra points floating. We have in our 9,009, we have 1,160 that are unknown. And how those got entered is that we had an engineer for a while. He I think he had someone do a collection with triangulation on video or something like that and added those in. And so those really cluttered up our data. But, you know, a few counties have reached out and asked the question, should we start over or should we try and use what we currently have? And I think it all depends upon the level of the integrity of your data that you have and how, you know, easy it is. You got to weigh that out is how much information do you have that's going to be useful to bring over and spend that 40 hours to migrate it, or do you want to dump it and spend 4 years collecting? And so if you got good data, I'd really encourage you trying to take that time on your GIS side to help your sign person by moving it over and have those conversations with your sign person to show them, you know, here's some floating points, here's some extra stop signs, here's the unknowns, so then they can be successful in cleaning up the data and moving it over rather than having to start from scratch. So our 9,009, I know that's high on the high side. And, you know, back when we were running simple signs, we were running around 5,000, I think. I do know in our collection for our culverts, each plate now is its own plate. So on a culvert marker, you have 2 points. Our sign guy that we have now, he's changing that so it's one inventory, one record for that end of culvert marker, even though it's 2 plates. We're talking about the idea of delineators going through a curve where you have 45 delineators that are little white markers and maybe just doing a begin end where rather than 45 separate individual entries. Just a way to maybe simplify your data set, or maybe you do want those 45 points. It's up to the county to figure out how they want to do their inventory, what works best for them. So I guess my big message for us is we spent Joel, who Jared mentioned a second ago, he's our GIS specialist here, took the time to extract out the really good data, the history of the information, and was able to pull out over those tables. And another point, a county had asked me, they said, well, they're just running their inventory on a spreadsheet right now. How could they bring that in? And well, if your spreadsheet indicates R1-1 for stop sign and it's 30 feet north of the intersection and you have the inventory done by county roads, you could certainly go out there and GPS the location of the signs and then do a join based on your GPS versus your tabular information and consume and bring that over and do a join that way. So if you've got good data, try and use it. That's all I got.
Great. You know, and just to add on to, you know, this is a good example to have. You know, we have 3 counties here that are, you know, we're all using something similar. You know, the SIS data set is a really good starting point if you're you know, trying to start out. But at the same time, there's, you know, it's able to be flexible, right? And it's able to work with how your system, how you need your system to be set up. You know, one example that always comes across for us, if, you know, when we're talking to other counties is, you know, people ask, well, why didn't you include this field? Well, you know, with our group, we only include the fields that are relevant for us, that works for our workflow. And, you know, every sign shop in every county is going to be a little bit different. So, you know, this data set is a really good, you know, base point on, you know, to start building your system, and then you build it the way that's going to work for your group and where they can be successful. So just kind of some other ideas, you know, once you have, you know, these are ideas that we've been working on at the county here now that our inventory is completed. You know, improve GPS accuracy by using Bluetooth GPS receivers. You know, Jared talked about this, and you know, if you take the time to set up, this is a Trimble R1 receiver. This is, I think Jared uses this, and we also use it at Washington County. Gets you within, you know, a couple feet of that signpost, and in most cases, that's, you know, that's a really nice degree of accuracy, and it's easy to obtain by clipping this thing on and Bluetoothing it into your mobile device. So that's something you might want to consider right off the bat. You know, are we willing to spend $1,000 or $2 on like a sub-meter GPS receiver that can work with this. Other ways we've improved accuracy is, as our construction projects happen, we get topo files that have, sometimes our survey crews have, higher accuracy GPS data, and we can actually, kind of piggyback off of that data to improve our accuracy on our signs as well. So that's just something to consider to improve your accuracy. I would highly recommend it. I wish we would have started with that with the county. We got probably 2 years into our program, we probably got our receiver. And, I really almost wish we would have had the thing right out of the gates and just gone with it. Another idea is, Jared, with his data set in the cloud, they have that, the maintenance records in their, tied to each point as a related table. At Washington County, we do it a little different. We have a work order system that tracks the actual work being done at each location. And so that system, although it's related to signs, it's actually its own database. So we don't have related tables quite so much as we just have a whole nother database that is associated with each sign, and it tracks our records through, we've been doing it a couple of years now. So we could go to each physical location and say, okay, what has been done for work at this corner, for signs, and we can pull that up. Just something to think about. That's the maintenance log that we just talked about with Jackson and McLeod counties. Use the data for project planning and sign replacement programs. Some things we do at Washington County is our sign shop manager. He really likes using the system, and he'll actually export the, he'll query out, I want every sign on this road that's older than this date, right? And then he'll export that data out as a spreadsheet, and he can actually use it to estimate, how, get like quantity estimates on what's it going to take to get a program in place to replace those signs. So, figure out ways to actually leverage this data, and, other than just having it be inventory work, it's, what do you do with the inventory after the fact? What are those really usable scenarios that you can use this data for? Something we've been testing out, I'm part of the engineering group at Washington County, and because of all our signs have the MUTCD code, what we're trying to do is, number one, improve the accuracy on the point, so it's at the actual location of the sign, and then export the data out of GIS with the MUTCD code, and ingest that into MicroStation, which is, if you're not familiar with MicroStation, that's what we use for developing road design and creating construction plans. Exporting it out of GIS and then ingesting it into MicroStation and being able to link those MUTCD codes to the cell library in MicroStation. And what it's doing is it's actually pulling all those sign images from the cell library in MicroStation into their layout and their sign plans. So it does that work for them, and all of a sudden this whole corridor is populated with the signs, the MUTCD signs that are pulling from the cell library in MicroStation. So instead of having to go out and figure out where each sign is and drop a sign, drop a point, and drop that image for the sign plan, it is auto populating those, and then our engineering technician would go in and adjust those signs accordingly so it makes sense with the plan. But we've been testing that out, and actually we've gotten it to work pretty good. One downfall with that is the accuracy, right? So we almost have to either go out with a Trimble receiver and update the accuracy before we make that push into MicroStation, or we get the data from our survey crew, update the location accuracy before we put it into MicroStation. But it's kind of something I've always had, like a, you know, as the GIS guy trying to figure out, there's got to be a way that we can help the MicroStation crew and, you know, utilize this data with the MicroStation crew and still have it for inventory and have it updated by our sign group. And we finally had workers that were willing to test it out a little bit, and we got it to work, and it was actually pretty impressive. So the last bullet on here is importing sign images into map symbology. So I think I'll have, Jared has had some discussion with MnDOT on trying to get all these sign images, and maybe Jared, I'll let you take over here.
For quite a few years, I've been thinking about, you know, since we've had our inventory done, like how I can improve some of it. And one of my ideas was having the actual sign symbols show up in our maps. Much as you kind of saw in the other one, some of the previous maps that I had the actual sign symbols in there. So I figured maybe the best spot to start was calling MnDOT Traffic Division and seeing if they had anything. My ultimate hope was that maybe MnDOT, or they knew of somebody that already had a all-inclusive sign style available. I know I have looked at the Esri sign management solution, and you know they have, I think, 1,000 some MUTCD codes, but they only have in that sign solution 152 sign symbols. So not even Esri has an all-inclusive sign symbology layer. So I did end up getting images from MnDOT. The unfortunate part was that they are bitmaps, as you can see right now. The quality level isn't there. But we hope to have future discussions with MnDOT to kind of talk to them about the quality of these images, and then even just, yeah, talking about sign code changes also. Another thing, like maybe a point of discussion towards the end here, is if anybody can think of a way, there's also a white border that shows up around this, and a white border would have to also be removed from these symbols. So I guess just trying to kind of spark discussion later on how we could possibly create a sign style that everybody can use and distribute it on the MCGISA site for the CIS to make it easier for people to put sign images in there. And you know, some of my initial ideas are, if need be, if you know somebody out there in Minnesota here, or if we don't have anybody that has this sign style right now, like an all-inclusive one, then maybe we find possible grant opportunities through maybe a local road research board or other avenues to maybe accomplish this. So that's kind of for future discussion, or where we'd like to go even after this presentation. Next slide. This slide is just kind of showing some screenshots of how to maybe utilize just temporarily until we can get a more permanent sign style made, is how to use Esri's sign management solution as kind of a template for your sign symbols. So what I basically did was just downloaded that sign management solution, and then opened the project file, and then I saved the pertinent file out as a layer file after that, and then just imported in the symbology into my data set. So this is just kind of trying to show how to accomplish that as well. Next slide. I also wanted to mention, I guess, this book on the left, the MnDOT Standard Signs and Marking Summary. It's kind of a, well, it's essentially a summary of all the signs that kind of out of the MUTCD, they have a lot of layouts there that are in between, like intersection layouts and so forth that are in between the actual sign symbols. So I felt that for GIS people, maybe the place to go would be downloading the sign summary markings just to get kind of all the pertinent information. You can see to the right, the sign code, and then with this new 2024 version, there was some sign code changes that were made that up until I was working on this presentation, I wasn't aware of. So that's going to be kind of a revolving maintenance part of this too, that we'd like to talk to MnDOT about. And whenever there's new sign codes assigned, obviously we're going to want to update our MUTCD drop downs in the future. And this just kind of shows that stuff. Next slide. Okay. Charlie, did you want to pull up the actual website so we can kind of look at it?
Yeah, let's do that. Yep, so this is the actual MCGISA website that we talked about earlier, and there's a designated tab here for the Sign Solution. Christy or Jared, do you want to talk about this a little bit more?
Sure. So there's some of the pertinent links, as you can see off to the right side, the blue links there. One link will bring you to the MUTCD page. The other is more of the summary page, and some other pertinent data. And then I guess with this solution, we're kind of hopefully using the pay it forward method, in that hopefully the last person that downloaded the sign solution or implemented the SIS solution will then help the next person that wants to implement it going forward. And Christy, if you could talk a little bit about how we're maybe going to track that possibly.
Well, as we get the connections and between the three of us, we'll keep track, and then word of mouth is down at the very bottom where we're going as new users become familiar with MCGISA, the SIS, becoming part of the user group. And I think we got counties that we're gonna tackle first, but of course there's going to be cities or other agencies that maybe want to adopt this as well, which we'll fully encourage them to do, and we can just pay it forward. And in the Sign Solution radio button that's here, when you click on that, that goes to an FTP, which is going to have everything in there, and maybe we'll even have the list of it's kind of wishful thinking. Hopefully I'll do it, but a list of contacts that you can reach out to when you're, call it a current list of peer-to-peer, whatever group or whatever. So, I think that about covers all of this page here. You got the links covered, the radio button, and then, this is a group effort. So, as people get on board, if there's suggestions or, ways that we can improve what we're doing, we're all ears on that.
And then also on the FTP, I think we're gonna have the recording on there, unless we end up that the avenue that we go is in YouTube, then we may just send a link out to that YouTube location. We haven't quite figured that out yet, but the video for the recording of this presentation will also reside in FTP. Most likely.
That's the hope. And like you said, if we YouTube it up, then we can we'll have a link in the FTP we'll have everything in the FTP to get you what you need. So absolutely.
So yeah, that's for the most part, we're at the point, I guess, that we can entertain questions or comments or kind of open discussion here. And if you could, please use the raise your hand method in here, just so we can, if you do have a quick question.
We do have one question in the chat, which I'll just respond to by saying that is our intention is at the end of the PowerPoint, we talked about this before, is converting the PowerPoint over to a PDF, and then we will have that in the FTP as well. We're going to try and put everything in there because I've had people emailing me during our meeting saying, sorry, I couldn't join in today, but can I get a copy of the notes and stuff? So yes, we're going to have it as a one-stop shop. Everything we're going to do is we're going to put in there. You're very welcome. Don't see any hands raised. You guys must have did a great job. Got to be some questions out there. Well, at 10:41, I think we did a good job. We were trying to hit 2 hours for a presentation and got it all done in 1 hour and 41. So that's awesome. As counties are out there downloading this and using this, I guess I would really appreciate a reach out saying just a status, you know, hey, we've downloaded, we're using it, and kind of want to know who's using it, how well it worked for you. And of course, you know, if you have questions, but it'd be kind of nice to know who's picked it up so we can kind of see the progression. So we have our sign person that's sitting right next to me who has a question. So yes, sir.
So I was wondering, you know, Jackson County, you guys are downloading a lot of pictures for every sign. Is that something that uses a lot of data on your end, or is that something that you haven't had any problems with?
So originally when we collected it, we found out there was some sort of issue where it would fill our tablet up.
Yeah.
And I thought last I heard that it no longer, it kind of stores it in a temporary folder, and it shouldn't use your tablet storage up anymore. Those pictures should essentially disappear once they're uploaded. But that does bring a good point up. If you do decide to fully implement this in ArcGIS Online, without using your own storage or hosting those pictures on your internal servers, that you're going to need some credits to store that information. And it's, I think I thought we figured out that it would maybe be 5 gigabytes per 5,000 signs about is what the size was, for a general guide on how much space that would be used up. Does that answer your question?
Yep, that answers my question exactly. And another.
So just a follow up, Jared, with you talking about the gigabytes consumption. I believe we related that to, I don't remember the number of credits, but I just looked up yesterday, 1,000 credit block is $120. So know that any counties listening that, you know, if your needs are to do certain things in a certain way, don't let pennies hinder you from doing what your business needs are, because credits are cheap.
Yep.
Okay, next question.
All right, next question is, and this is basically for all three of you. Say you're doing work for another government organization, perhaps like a township or something, and you start keeping this sign inventory in your inventory as you're installing them. I think I saw you in the presentation earlier, printing out or emailing that data in their sign database, you know, something you can share with them and keep records for them, or just as well as yourself. Are you able to share those types of things with other government organizations?
Yeah, I mean, I could kind of, you know, the example I think I showed was the Trunk Highway 96, the MnDOT road that we recently acquired. And yeah, you can export the data as another GIS file, you know, a copy. We've done that in the past where we don't, in Washington County, we haven't done any work for townships or cities yet. But if for whatever reason we need to share the data, you know, share with MnDOT or whoever, we could make a copy of that data out of the system and provide it to them. So there's a couple different ways you can do it, but, yeah, there's definitely a way to do that.
All right, thank you.
And then my comment to that is I have, so I do have a separated data set for townships that I set up soon after I finish the county stuff. And it was mentioned to the townships that, we could possibly have this available to you, and nobody really bid on it, I guess, at this point. But our townships down here don't have a lot of resources either. So I don't know. I do have something stood up for townships to utilize. It just hasn't been utilized, I guess, at this point.
Thank you.
So you have our hand raised, Brad Bolton with Morrison County. Brad, the floor is yours.
Yep. Did any of you guys try using this in an offline environment, or was it only connected online when you did it?
So my collection was done online. I did run into some issues in some of the bad areas of the county. But what I ended up doing then, if it won't push to the server, is basically getting to connectivity area and then pushing the button, and then it seemed to sync up. I guess I haven't done the offline part myself, but it's capable of doing that also.
Yeah, we've done the offline, Washington County. One thing you'll end up having issues with is like, you kind of need to know which area you want to work in for the day. Because if you try to download the entire, like for us, if we download all 16,000 signs, like the thing just stalls out, and it's too much to handle. So, let's say our crew knows that in the south part of the county, the cellular's bad, they would just check out and download the south portion of the county where they know they're going to work for the day, and then sync it back when they get back to the shop, with a Wi-Fi signal. So it does work. You just have to be careful with the size, right? And how many signs you're you need to know where you're going to work for the day. Another issue we had with that was, we used to have our higher resolution county aerials as the base map, and we ran into problems with that, hanging up checking out the data offline. So we used to have it in there. We actually removed it and just used Esri maps now, because if we do need to check it out offline, then there's no issue there.
Thank you.
Just to add on to that, so for McLeod County, we have a sign or a culvert inventory. In some areas of the county, occasionally we have connection issues. So for a culvert inventory, we loaded all the culverts onto a Samsung Galaxy tablet that doesn't have any connection at all. We took our aerial imagery and converted it to a TPK file and just loaded it on there. Person that's going out and does culvert inspections will come at the end of the day and do a sync. But we don't have 16,000 records in there. We probably have 4,000. So just mentioning that is maybe a syncing option might be a possible solution for some areas, some counties that have connectivity issues.
Sure.
I don't see any more hands up. Does that conclude our meeting? I believe so. So shall I stop recording? Is that where we're at? Or Charlie or Jared, do you have anything more?
I don't have any more. I guess in the initial time, I know this is a lot to consume all, in 2 hours. And if you do have questions, feel free to reach out. Now, with that being said, I guess I don't want to get bombarded with emails either in that respect.
Yep, I'd echo what Jared said, and just like to thank, Jared and Christy for coming up with the idea to do something like this. I think, Christy, you talked about having kind of a support group with the, you know, Minnesota counties to develop something like this. And it's really nice to have, you know, ideas to bounce off of and figure out how can we improve this system. So, you know, guys, I'd like to thank you for your time and all your effort and helping put this together.
Same to
You
you
know-
as well, Charlie.
Yeah, it's been a great movement here, and I know we didn't talk about this, but you know, I really see an opportunity here, and you know, maybe there's other things that don't want to try and put the cart before the horse, but you know, maybe our next project is a culvert or a public works maintenance type solution or something. That's what MCGISA is for, is to work together, and maybe there's another county out there that's been there, done that, another thing that's working great, and we can learn from them. So just throwing that out there. All right, so I will stop recording, and thank you for everyone attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.